What's up, everybody? We are back covering a different project restart than the first one. If you've been playing with us for a year or two, you understand that reference. Otherwise, don't worry about it. It never happened. We're getting back into it. The most important thing is Game Week 18. But before I get into Game Week 18, I got to introduce my man that's here helping me out. We started this together. We're going with it for the long haul. Doc. Doc, my man, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm glad to be back. The FPL is back. The game weeks are coming thick and fast. We're enjoying the interaction in the comments. So if you're new here, if you've been watching us for a while, just look at that subscribe button. If you haven't subscribed, it's free. Just press it. It helps us out, shows us your support. I had a kind of a good game week, a small green arrow, but kind of all my 50-50 decisions went, let's say, south. Small green arrow, I'll take it for now. And hashtag we move.
Yeah, Doc. So I actually had a couple. My 50-50s I did great on. My issue that I ran into was I had faith in a captaincy, and unfortunately that fell on Grealish. Well, we'll talk about disappointments and heartbreaks coming up. We got two topics ahead for everybody. Two things that I think are pretty interesting that everybody's asking questions about. First off, James, what to do with James? Do you roll? Do you replace him? Or do you just stop playing because you should have never had him in the first place? I mean, sorry, I'm not. No spoilers. No spoilers. My bad. Um, and then, actually, the second topic that we're going to cover is a little bit of a recap of the game week and just kind of looking at things that maybe we learned throughout watching some of these games or having them played, and some things that, we were like, yeah, that makes sense. James would get a one. I mean, I'm sorry. We're not going to get into this right now. We're not going to get into this. This is the intro. This is the intro. Okay. All right. So before we slide into our first topic about James, that you should, oh man, I'm sorry. Make sure you subscribe, you like the video. I'm going to give you a second. Did you do it? Did you? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for doing it. I appreciate all of that. So actually, I'm going to shift gears on you guys. We are going to talk about the recap first before we go into James because. So I have on the screen a list of the games. I'm going to run through them with my man Doc here. Doc, first one up. Spurs versus Brentford. My boys, what do you think about this?
What I want to mention before we get into this recap, the reason we're doing it, because while we were building our teams during the break and up to the deadline, we had, let's say, lack of information. And one game week, yes, it's a very small sample size, but we kind of develop a feel and we can learn a lot from kind of going through each game for like 30 seconds and just see what kind of highlights we saw and we noticed. Joe and I, we check all the stats and we watch as many matches as possible as I try to do. So we can give you a quick feedback if you haven't, or if you missed any matches. When it comes to Spurs, they cannot defend. It's a Conte team. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
Defensively, it's terrible.
Oh yeah.
The wing backs are rotation risk. The wing back are rotation risk, but you cannot write them off. They came back from a 2-0 down, so I think Brentford are good when it comes to attack. They're conceding quite a lot as well, so Raya doesn't become an option anymore. Tony still kicking, scored a goal.
My man.
Joe benched him. I laughed about it. Good life. Joe?
Hey, hey. Then I had another player bench that never came on, so I actually started him. Okay? Yeah, no, looking at Brentford and Spurs, I've talked about Spurs. I'm a Spurs fan. We can't keep a clean sheet to save our lives. It was great at the end of last year when we had our wingbacks just going absolutely insane, but you can guarantee we will give up one goal. I guess it's somewhat better than last year because we would wait until the 95th minute to give up that last goal. I think the statistic was something like we've had like 9 games this season that we've come back and tied or won from being down in the first half. So as long as we go down in the first half, I actually feel pretty confident that we're going to collect some sort of points. I mean, yeah, you had mentioned it. Normal people are ticking. You have Tony, you have Kane. So sliding into the next one, Crystal Palace, Fulham. Doc, what do you think?
Crystal Palace came into the match thinking it's a wrestling match, getting two red cards, which helped Fulham kind of play. Mitrovic tricked us all. The manager tricked us all and hold while everybody sold him. Fulham still impresses me attacking wise. They're a very attacking team. Andreas and Mitrovic seem like a no-brainer to get into our teams at one point. Maybe not now yet because everybody would just wants to roll. Let's see how it goes. So yeah, I like Fulham from an attacking point of view. I don't, despite keeping the clean sheet, but was against 9 players. I still don't like them defensively. Crystal Palace, don't know what's going on. Let's see what they do in the next match.
Wild game. I think as veteran managers, we need to really kind of get rid of the whole notion of teams are who they've been the last 3 seasons. And I think that holds back a lot of managers and really has put a lot of people in the situation where they're like, well, Crystal Palace always keep clean sheets. What's another good one? Liverpool are always going to be in the fight in top two with Man City. Yeah, not this year. Not this year. Things are changing. Times are changing. Maybe there is a changing of the guard, so to speak. But yeah, Crystal Palace. I mean, poor Palace. Why don't they just get relegated and just beat up on teams down there and come back next year, right? Mitrovic, this is where we have a very complex season where there's so many good options at the forward spot, unlike last year when there was like one and you kind of wanted to give away your one forward spot. So it's a good problem to have, but it is a problem and it is difficult to kind of build the perfect team around because you bring in Mitrovic and he gets a goal and an assist and you're like, wow, yes, I made the right choice. And then Martial will go and get a hat trick and you're like, okay, well, that kind of deflates everything. Fulham and Crystal Palace, just out there being Fulham and Crystal Palace. Doc, Everton and Wolves, what about this one?
Everton still cannot finish. Still cannot. Well, they defend better than they can finish. Yeah, they might have. If you look at the stats, they might have dominated the game versus Wolves, but they still lost it in the kind of dying minutes. So Everton, a lot of people went for Patterson. I went for Bueno. It was face-to-face matchup. Bueno was taken off for Ait Nouri before, I believe, the 60th minute. So it's a 50-50 decision. I wouldn't kind of target getting any other Wolves or any other Everton players, but I would target both those teams, whoever plays against them.
Yeah, I think this is a little bit of a difference from the first half of the season where it looked like Everton was probably going to start ticking a little bit. I mean, yeah, you mentioned it. Defensively, they've been not too bad this season, but it looked like their offense was starting to come together, starting to make sense of everything. And Wolves, if I told you the Wolves scored 2 goals at the beginning of the season, you would tell me I'm lying. So this is a little bit of a change, and you mentioned Patterson and Bueno. Leicester versus Newcastle. Doc, how many Leicester players did you have? Tell us all about them.
I had one. He was on the bench, which is Ward, so it's not going to happen. He's probably going to stay there. Newcastle, I mentioned in the last episode that I will treat them like a top six team. They play like a top six team. If you look at the stats, actually, they were like losing on possession. They scored their 3 goals with 39 possession, so 39% possession. So they're doing very well defensively, attacking wise. They're a top six team. I have Almiron, which I brought in the last moment kind of thing. Trippier always will be there. I'll never bench. And yeah, Leicester are still terrible team to target whoever plays against them. I think the clean sheets that came in the last, let's say before the break, before the World Cup, the clean sheets that came were, I would say, lucky. And I don't expect them to keep many clean sheets to come. I can eat my own words, but Ward will stay on my bench since I have my starting goalkeeper as Sanchez from Brighton.
I agree. Another case of the first half of the season doesn't make up for having a whole month's rest in FPL. Leicester, finished the season, or the first half of the season, let's say, fairly well. Another team looked like their offense was starting to tick, starting to make sense of stuff. Obviously, they didn't have Madison in, who has kind of been the heart and soul of the attack for Leicester this whole year. They got zeroed out. Newcastle, yeah, like you said, Almiron, Trippier, they're in everybody's team, and if you don't have them, use that transfer. Go get one of them. Go get both of them actually. So Newcastle, they're functioning like the big boys, but they have big boy money now. Moving on, Southampton, Brighton. Doc, what's up?
Yeah, I got Brighton's goalkeeper Sanchez kind of the last night before the deadline when I was tinkering. I opted for Sanchez over Kepa for one reason, and we saw it in the match. The new manager has a possession-based game. So, in my thinking, if they have the fixtures, they have a double coming up, and the team plays possession-based. That means if the team has the ball, the opponent doesn't have the ball, so they cannot really score. So there is highly likelihood of clean sheets with 4.6 and doubles coming up. I opted to go for Kepa. Over Kepa, for Sanchez over Kepa. I thought it worked magic. I thought I was an absolute genius when he saved the penalty, and then Kepa next day went and matched the exact score with 9 points. Southampton is still a team to target. Yes, under maybe new management, things might change, but the team is not ticking well. James Ward-Prowse is kind of the shining star in a dark night sky, but otherwise, yeah, Brighton, I really like the looks of Brighton. Trossard was playing almost an striker.
You know, Southampton coaching ain't gonna fix that. Good luck to them and their fans. I feel for you. Brighton, yeah. Listen, I know what's going to happen. Everybody's going to bring in Solly March, especially if you had Trossard. Don't do that. This is like Solly March's like one chance per. This is like Solly March's like one chance per decade to actually get any viable FPL points. He's not gonna do it week in week out, over and over again. Don't do it. Just hang on to Trossard. If they get a double or a multi-game week announced, you're gonna want Trossard over anybody else. Sanchez was a good call, Doc. Henderson would have saved that too, but unfortunately he doesn't play for Brighton, or fortunately, not really sure. Moving on, Villa Liverpool. What do you think about those Liverpool boys? That top two side.
Darwin Nunez. Those are the two words I'm going to tell you. Four big chances missed in the same game. Most big chances missed during the season. I think he played 16, missed 12 big chances, if I read that correctly. So he's getting a lot of chances, taking a lot of shots. The points will eventually come. The finishing is rough. It takes a lot of time. He's young. So I've heard a lot of excuses, a lot of memes are coming up which are extremely funny, especially for me as a Manchester United fan. But yeah, I would keep Nunez in my team because if the chances are coming eventually, three of them will go out of the four. So yeah, his finishing is not the best, but he always gets in good positions. And yeah, Salah scored and assisted. I would say not from a lot of chances or a lot of shots. He was clinical in his goal. He was in the right position for his goal. He didn't take a lot of shots that game. And the assist, well, if
Wasn't an
it
assist.
wouldn't have
Get out
come,
of here.
yeah, yeah, it would have. It was the 50-50 that failed. So, well done, Salah owners. I went for KDB, almost like deadline decision over Salah. I regret it, of course, naturally, but you have to give credit where credit is due. This is what Salah does. He gets the points. If I had Salah, I would keep him in my team. If I had Darwin, I would keep him in my team.
I actually think the scoreline doesn't do the game justice. I think Villa were actually more in it than a 3-1. Ollie Watkins had a couple opportunities that he should have put away. Nunez, for some reason, they left him on the pitch past 45 minutes. Liverpool, I guess, didn't really want to win the game. This is one of those situations where, like we've talked about in some previous games, what happened prior to the break isn't carrying over exactly to game week 17, game week 18. Nunez. I mean, that's a perfect example. I'm not even sure he knew where the goal was. I'm surprised he didn't get an own goal from his attacking half because he would have been closer half the time. But before the break, he was automatic. He was just slotting them in easy. Yeah, Salah, lucky assist. Congratulations, collect your points. Everybody gets one. Yeah, I wouldn't be sprinting to collect Liverpool players. I know Trent played well. Everybody's going to try and run to get him. Don't do it. Robbo got an assist, played well. Everybody's going to sprint to him to try and collect him. Yeah, don't do it. Boring old Arsenal and West Ham. Oh, man. What do you think, Doc?
If you remember in the beginning of the season, I had one shout out for one player who I think was going to be the ultimate differential and the best player kind of to get. which I never got into my team. It was Odegaard, if you remember my tweet, and I mentioned it also on video. This is the player that I shouted out to be the star of the season, and he delivers and he keeps delivering. So I think that's Arsenal are still playing very well. They conceded, and I think in the first half they conceded the penalty, but during the full first half they conceded zero XG, non-penalty. So defensively they're still very solid, attacking, nice team to watch. Yeah, three Arsenal is coming soon, very soon, especially with the double in 21 and 23, which is probable.
Yeah, I felt the penalty was a little soft, but hey, what are you gonna do? I'm not the ref there. Yeah, Arsenal, they did what everybody expected. Probably worse, honestly. If I'm being honest, I expected them to put like 5, maybe 6 in. I know they don't have Jesus, but he doesn't matter. Their team is clicking in other areas, like you mentioned, Odegaard. I think he's more than viable if you have a midfielder that you want to swap out and bring in somebody else for. Odegaard's definitely a look. Even more so, I would say, over Saka and Martinelli. He's just part of every single play, and he's collecting points. He's actually, I think, higher on the points than his two counterparts. So, viable option. Chelsea Bournemouth. What's up?
Havertz, hold, Mount, hold, Kepa, hold. So, well, one of the things you would love to talk about is James, and I was doubting myself because for years I've been playing the game, and for 15 years actually, and I always bring players who are not injury risk or just came back from injury, right? But since joining FPL Twitter, FOMO of course increased, and I usually wouldn't bring James, but oh, the upside is there and everything, and James is off. Injured again, out for a month. It's a topic we're going to talk about in the next segment. So, yeah,
Yeah,
Chelsea have a double coming up. People who went for Kepa, well done. Keep him. People who went for Mount, the same. Havertz was an ultimate differential.
yeah, Chelsea did what Chelsea does. I should have tweeted it out, but as soon as they got that second goal, I was going to tweet out, just be like, well, Chelsea's done scoring for the day, guys, because they can't score 3. Man, I should have tweeted it out, but it felt way too early, and Bournemouth were not really clicking. But here we are, 2-0. Can't score 3. All right, Doc, your team, United Nottingham.
Yeah, if I could triple on my team now, I would, but the fixtures are turning, let's say after game week 19, the fixtures are turning and we have tough fixtures. Ben Crellin mentioned there is a slight chance we're going to have a double soon, but having Martial and having Rashford in my team was good enough. It would have been nice to have Luke Shaw as well, but there was no place for him. We dominated the game, absolutely. Yes, we conceded, but it was an offside goal, so it was written off. 3-0, clean sheet, nice match. Rashford, full faith. Before the deadline, I was trying to fit, if you remember my team from the video. I didn't have Almiron in, and I was just trying to fit Almiron somehow. So I was talking to Big Man Bakar, and Big Man mentioned, well, your alternatives are taking off Martinelli or Rashford. That's the alternatives that you have. And I told him, I remember telling him clearly that I told him, I don't want to take off Martinelli because I have enough money tied in. There is great value in keeping this player in my team. And Rashford, I'm absolutely not taking him off my team because there is just positive vibes, probably for the first time in 6 years or 7 years that we have at United. I think the trust that Ten Hag is giving Rashford is phenomenal. There is a slight plan, like in my FPL team, I was planning my team, and there is a slight plan that I might take off Rashford during the fixtures turning, but I see him also as a hold throughout the season. I think he will do extremely well.
Yeah, I think Rashford. I think Ericsson actually said it. That Rashford came back. He had a different swag, different confidence about him, and they just feel very confident in Rashford's ability for the first time in forever. It seems like. So I would love a Man United triple up. Not sure it's viable anytime soon, but grabbing one, maybe 2 in makes sense. I am still pretty shaky on their defense, but they did keep a clean sheet against Nottingham Forest. What's that really mean? Um, we'll see in the coming weeks, I guess. Final game, Doc. Leeds Man City. Talk to me.
I do not know how Jack Grealish got 2 assists in that game. Like the whole game, I was just watching and I'm like, KDB is missing out on points because of him. Haaland is missing out on points because of him. And I think he tweeted something like that as well. So yeah, he got 2 assists. Foden, I'll expect him to start next game unless kind of Pep sees Grealish's performance was good and plays him again. I don't see it happening, to be honest. Foden was benched, Cancelo was benched, Pep went full Pep, and but I think both of them will be back in the starting lineup, so it's an easy hold if you have both of them. Otherwise, yeah, City did what City do.
This is a perfect example that I've been talking about with Leeds since the beginning of the season, maybe before that. Their attack actually looks pretty solid, pretty creative. They're able to break down almost anybody's defense and get in to get opportunities. Their defense is what lets them down. Now, they did hold City for like 43 minutes or something ridiculous like that like almost nobody does. I think they weren't tired. They had fresh legs. They've been at home resting the whole month and a half, month that we've been gone. I like their attack. Once Leeds have a change, I'd look at Rodrigo. I think he's the man to own there. And then speaking on City, yeah, Grealish, I don't know. The only thing I can think of is they are definitely selling Grealish either in this window or in the summer window. And Pep is just trying to get as much value as he can out of him when they actually go to sell him. So he's playing him out, but honestly, keep him on the bench. He's worth more money on the bench. He looked terrible. I mean, yes, he went and he got 2 assists, but that's because the rest of his team is so good. Like, he didn't get those assists. Everybody else in the team got that assist. Both of them. First half was awful. He's, you know, skying it, not even coming close. Every time KDB rolls on the ball, he, completely ignored Holland. Every time Holland was wide open, he's like, no, don't worry. I played for Villa. I got this. Don't worry. Nobody cares, man. Nobody cares. This is a big team. This isn't Villa. Like, they actually have money in their players now. So, throw away Grealish. This is why I was kind of alluding to if you have KDB, don't worry about it because literally anybody else can finish those as long as Grealish isn't there. Yeah, we'll be fine.
I would like to address 2 points that you mentioned. I don't think Grealish is a bad player in any shape or form. I actually loved him in Aston Villa, and I think he was worth 100 million for Aston Villa. But with the team that Pep has, I don't think he kind of fits the meta, let's say, when it comes to Pep's team. He's kind of slowing the game down for them. This is how we see the teams, and we've been watching the game for a long time, and it seems like to me that he's kind of slowing the game a bit for them. For Aston Villa, he was absolutely electric. I absolutely loved watching him. And the second point that I want to address is you mentioned Rodrigo. I want to mention Greenwood. He was on a lot of set pieces for that
Mm-hmm.
price. Greenwood is a great shout.
Yeah, Greenwood 4.2. And yeah, I wasn't saying that Grealish is a all-around bad footballer. I'm saying in Man City, he's the worst one I've seen in a long time. So, take that for what you will. All right, Doc.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts on this section, or ready to get into the next question?
Let's talk about James.
All right. So, James. What would you do? Because you are higher on James than I have literally ever been in my life. Talk to the people.
The way I look at it, I'm going to kind of, let's say, rank each decision. So decision number one, which I'm going to follow, is keep James for this game week and roll the transfer. That's what I'm going to do because you're going to get more information regarding the double game week hopefully soon. It's better to go into game week 20 or 19 with more information and then deal with the situation. So this is my favorite option. The second option is if you don't have Trippier, if you don't have Cancelo, I would sell for one of those two. So if you can roll, do it. If not, I would get either Trippier or Cancelo. That's it.
Okay. All right. Well, um, personal preference, just don't have him and you don't have to replace anybody. Yeah, I went with Cucurella. If, for those who don't remember or do, whatever, from our last week video. I went Cucurella because me and James have a history, but not even me and James, just James and any points ever. Roll if you want, get him out of your team if you want. Doesn't matter, but he doesn't deserve to be in your team. Your team is better than that. Even if you're what 10.4 million in the world, your team's better than that.
He's a definite sell, but I would wait just for more information. When you have two transfers, it's going to give you more flexibility for game week 19. So he's going to be sold. But for whom? You might want a Brighton defender next game week. You might want another Chelsea defender next game week. You might want a Manchester United defender, Man City defender, Akanji all of a sudden gets a couple of games in a row and you want him for a double game week. So I would just wait and see what happens. Literally, this is my answer for it.
Yeah, yeah. One more quick thing to throw in there is something that I saw that flew under the radar. I don't know when it happened, if it was the beginning of the season, the middle of the season. I heard that Chelsea actually had fired their main core of their physio staff and had brought in a different team because of all the injuries everybody was getting. So maybe James will be viable at some point in time if he can stay away from yellow cards. You don't think of those third party, I guess, entities when you're selecting your teams, but let's be honest, James is like 85 years old, at least his body is right now. So they got to do something for him.
And it's also about management style. Like the way I've been playing the game for years, and I always mention it, I prefer the steady points over the kind of, let's say, the upside chase type of strategy. Like if I can get a player who's going to get me 6 points and then 7 points in the next game, I'd rather that player than a player who would get me 12 points and then 1 point. It's the same 13 points, but usually the players who bring you steady points are usually cheaper and you just don't worry about them. You have to worry about the transfer and all this kind of stuff. So every time I bring in James, I don't feel comfortable, but and I don't want to blame Twitter. I don't want to blame anybody. It's my team, my decisions. But there is definitely FOMO out there. You're like, okay, I'm gonna bring him in, and this game week is gonna score his 18 points whole, and it's always the same cycle. So it's about strategy, and I think I might steer clear from him for a while as well now, and steer clear from those type of players. Let's say.
For sure. If you're worried about FOMO, just get somebody on the opposite side in that defensive line. No fear.
I don't know.
All right, Doc. So, shifting gears now, going into game week 18. Got your team up. See that you had an all right week at 89 points. Green arrow, if I recall correctly. Tell me about it.
Well, like I mentioned, I had a couple of 50-50s that I had in my mind, and they all kind of, let's say not go south, but they went worse than I hoped. So when Salah hold, my KDB didn't do anything. He blanked. I was not very happy when my Sanchez got 9 points. The rival was Kepa, got 9 points as well. Martial versus Mitrovic. I thought, okay, I'm gonna bring Mitrovic back. I actually mentioned that I was talking to someone, I can't remember who, and I mentioned that the manager of Fulham mentioned that Mitrovic is a doubt a while ago, and then Mitrovic played 90 minutes. So I'm extremely suspicious.
Hmm.
Happened again, Mitrovic hold, but I thought Martial is still. It was a good decision to make. Martial has a nice fixture after this game week, which is game week 19. He played 60 minutes, so probably Ten Hag is saving him. He's back from a long-term injury. He hasn't played the game for a while, so I don't regret any decision. Maybe the KDB Salah, which was the last minute decision, but I really, really, really wanted to enter this game week with three Man City. So I thought, why not? And Man City have the double before potential double of Liverpool because Liverpool is potentially having a double in game week 21. Man City have a double in game week 20. So I thought, okay, I'm going to have De Bruyne now in game week 21 and move him to Salah. The team did relatively well. I'm rolling, as I mentioned. I want to have as much information as possible. And then I have the freedom to do whatever I want in game week 19 and 20 going into the doubles.
Looking at your team, you gonna move James to the third spot?
Fair enough. I'm actually gonna start him as FPL Twitter does every once in a while just to get the points off the bench. So I'm actually gonna start him just for the fun.
Okay.
Probably not, but we will see. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely get that. Anything else you want to talk about with your team here?
Absolutely not. Let's move on to your team.
Okay. All right. So my team, Yeah, it's my team. Interesting thing that you'll see here, and I put myself in these situations because why not? It makes the game more fun. I actually have Saliba in my one spot on my bench. You look at the team, and who are you going to take out?
Let's
No,
start with the transfers. Are you doing any transfers?
I'm not doing any transfers.
So you're rolling as well.
Yeah, I ended up being on a red arrow, but you'll see the reason why I was on the red arrow. So I actually have the captaincy on KDB. That was probably my only 50-50 idea that I had. I wanted the Vice to be on Kane just so it was in a separate game in case, somebody didn't feature and the game goes downhill because, Holland isn't there to score 15 goals up top, or KDB isn't there to feed Jack Grealish to try and get American football field goals. Seem pretty confident that KDB would outscore Salah. I don't know. Maybe I'll put the captaincy on KDB if it sounds like Grealish isn't going to play, but got to build value in him. Yeah, I think Tony against West Ham, that's more than fine. They don't have a defense anymore. Goalkeeper, I have my boy Henderson in, hoping that he can shut down some Mason Mount, some Kai Havertz, black a penalty or two. Yeah, sure. Seems like a fun time. I'm on board. Sign me up. Yeah, so I'm sure I'll get a bunch of slack from our Twitter followers, from our YouTube commenters. Why are you putting Saliba on the bench? Look at this team and tell me who you're taking out. Maybe Walker, maybe, but they play Everton, so that's a clean sheet as long as he plays. And if he doesn't play, I just get Saliba off the bench. Oh no. Any thoughts, Doc?
Well, Joe, I think this channel is going downhill because I'm agreeing with you again. We actually built this channel because we tend to disagree with each other, but it's for the second game week running that we agree. Yeah, I would bench Saliba in this point of view. Yeah, in this point of time, actually.
Yeah, and we actually had somebody comment on the last video of oh no, I'm starting to agree with the American. What's wrong with the world? Sorry, my bad. And it's not like I'm playing template. I'm switching things up a little bit, and keeping things interesting. Clearly, Saliba on the bench. What's wrong with this guy? Yeah, I'm excited to make you question and ponder everything that you've decided for the last 6 days.
Well, let's wrap this up, Joe.
We've had a little bit of a long one. We'll see. Kind of went through all the games, did a little bit of an explanation in each game, kind of interesting things that went to plan, things that didn't. Hope you enjoyed that. We can always add more in if that is something that you were interested in, liked a little bit of the conversation that went back and forth there. Then we jumped right into talking about why do you own James still after all these seasons. And finally, we went to our teams and took a look and kind of gave you an idea of what we're looking at. Sounds like both of us are rolling. Anything can happen, but that seems pretty solid. So let us know down in the comments what your team look like. What are you planning on doing? Any questions that you have, 50-50s, contact us. We'll answer them for you as best as we can. And subscribe, and follow my man Doc.
All right, everybody. We'll see everybody on the next episode.
All right, we'll see you all. Peace.